Jay, what is happening to American society and pop culture? Are people so fragile now that we can't have any requirements whatsoever in the education sector? What say you? Speak to what we are referencing, sir.
Students at NYU got a professor fired, a professor who teaches organic chemistry. And the textbook that the professor teaches organic chemistry out of was written by this teacher. Other people use this textbook. All right. And they got this person fired because they believed that the grades he was giving out would endanger their ability to get into med school. Mind you, NYU is a great school, tough to get into, but also costs like $50,000 or $60,000 a year. So I can understand how some very deep-pocketed alumni who sent their kids to that school might have had the ear of the dean. And by nature of the kids complaining, might have been able to get this person fired.
I am surprised that the school co-signed this and actually fired him. All this is doing is putting mediocre doctors in hospitals now.
Thank you. Let's say the professor's name, Professor Maitland Jones Jr. And
give us a little of his background. It's organic chemistry, I believe, right?
Organic chemistry was the class. For everyone who's not familiar, organic chemistry is required for people who are in any of the majors in undergrad that are pre-med. So if you're literally pre-med, or if you're bio or something that you usually major in before you go to med school, it's gonna require organic chemistry. Organic chemistry is always one of the hardest classes you will take if you are going to med school. It is one of the hardest classes you take.
And necessary, though. It's a foundational class. It's one of the tenets of medicine. You need that class. You need to do well in that class. This isn't beyond the pale to expect from medical students.
Yeah. And New York University specifically said, hey, it was too hard. But the professor himself said, hey, the kids weren't coming to class. And the professor made videos. He recorded his lectures and uploaded them. He said, hey, the kids weren't watching.
You can watch them as often as you want.
Questions.
No, it's shameful. I mean, we're dumbing down society. We're dumbing it down across the board. We're not giving teachers the flexibility to demand more from their students, to set the expectations high, where all we're doing is creating more mediocre students who are not grasping the fundamentals of what we need to move society forward, medicine forward, education forward, culture forward, art forward. And if you think kids in medical school in other countries are trying to get professors fired and dumbing down tests, you got another thing coming. So when foreign students come to this country and start wiping the floor with American students, it's not the immigrants that's the problem. It's the laziness of Americans and this entitlement that everybody seems to have with regard to everything. Everyone has an excuse for everything these days. It's misogyny, it's racism, it's this. And I'm not saying that all of that's not there. It is, but it's being overused. Firing a good teacher from a good school because you guys can't hack it is wrong. Go to him, form study groups, get a tutor. If you're going to that school, a lot of people have resources. The ones that don't, there's tutoring at the school. Go to the professor. I've gone to college. You've gone to college. There are many a times that you've had to go to the professor and throw yourselves at their feet for mercy for whatever reason. You're overwhelmed with other assignments. You just misunderstood something. There's ways to be successful without dumbing down the literature and the tenets of what it is you're trying to do in the first place. Yeah. And it's sad that we're allowing this and engaging this in society. And it's the adults' fault. The school shouldn't co-sign that.
No.
Because now you're going to get all kinds of teachers fired.
Yeah.
But that's the whole goal. This is all intentional. Ruining education in the United States is intentional.
It must be. At this point.
You can't be this efficient without being this inefficient without being intentional about it. Yeah. No other profession, no other industry is failing this much while people are making money.
Mm-hmm. And for how much New York University costs, you're supposed to be getting a good education. And this person is here to deliver that. If that means you get a little bit of tough love, you get some bad grades, you get slapped on the wrist a bit, figuratively speaking, so be it. You're going to be a better doctor for it. Okay. Now I heard, because I got to talk about this at a local restaurant with some friends who went to NYU Law and knew people who went to NYU undergrad and took this professor's course. They said he's a bit of a dick.
He probably is.
Yeah, firm but fair is what
Irrelevant. Right. Irrelevant if he's a good teacher, and irrelevant if he's giving you what you need to be a good doctor. You don't have to like everybody. It's not a congeniality contest.
Mhm.
It's medical school. Can he probably be a little bit more, open to students? Who knows? Maybe he can. That's something you, as a teacher, adjust to each class. You kind of ride the waves of the energy of the class. Having said that, if it's just sheer, this class is too hard nonsense, I'm disappointed that NYU co-signed that and actually let go of a very seasoned, very respected teacher in a profession that desperately needs blood pumping through it, which is the medical profession.
Exactly. Like you said, we're just going to have more mediocre doctors because in med school, before they even got to med school, they were coddled and cosseted and handed good grades because they were so afraid of getting a bad grade and how that bad grade might impact their ability to get into med school. Really? Is
Rather
that
than
what we
thinking
want?
about being a good doctor. Shameful. Shameful. So we get the doctors and the leaders we settle for.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But one more point. This wouldn't be happening if it weren't for rich kids complaining. If it was a bunch of poor kids complaining, I think the NYU brass would have blown them off. I think the needle only moved when enough rich kids and their rich parents, who are also probably alumni and are also probably donors, once they got the ear of the dean and started pushing to have this person fired, I think that's what moved the needle. I highly doubt if this was just poor kids, they would have actually done something about this. I believe a school like NYU, with all the money that they pull in with donations and with how much that school costs and with the notable...
And what they went to get that professor, right? What they went to get that professor at that school. I mean, there's a whole process to becoming a professor. Those roles are not something that they just throw out to anyone who can catch. It's a very well respected position. So all the effort that they went into to securing him in the position for it to end like this is a pretty extraordinary thing. And I think it's something that should concern us, and it's not something that we should be engaging and indulging in this society, let alone feeding it.
Mm-mm.
It's
Not
to our demise.